Hello, my name is Victoria Dunaeva. I am a clinical psychologist living and working in Warsaw, Poland. I have own practice and I support people dealing with difficult life situations. For instance, heavy disease, consequences of psychotraumas, toxic relationship. The title of my presentation is Women and Men in Midlife Crisis. I would like to take my attention to the differences of midlife crisis in the case of men and women. I would like also define the reasons which can lead to midlife crisis. So, I will start with notion of midlife crisis. This term appeared in 1965 and described the crisis of self-identity and self-confidence that many people experienced around mid-age. Elliot Jacobs, Canadian psychoanalyst and management consultant, was the first who paid attention to that psychological phenomenon. He described it in the article titled Death and Midlife Crisis, published in the International Journal of Psychoanalysis. Concept of midlife crisis becomes in the center of interest of many famous psychologists. For instance, German-American psychoanalyst Karen Horney, discovering nature neurosis, and defined the specific character of midlife emotional problems. With comparison to neurosis, according to Karen Horney, midlife crisis has potential for healthy growth of person. Horney called that process process of self-realization, which she described as the development of person's given possibilities. Other famous psychoanalyst Carl Jung defined 5 main phases of midlife crisis. The first phase, accommodation, in other words, meeting others' expectations. The second phase, separation, rejecting the self. The third phase, liminality, state of uncertainty and disorientation. And the fourth phase, reintegration, understanding who is my true self and being comfortable with it. And at least the last phase, individuation, accepting the negative features of own character. It should be mentioned that Carl Jung suffered his own midlife crisis between the ages of 39 to 45. He described his long-term struggle with that difficult period of his life in his Red Book. Being famous psychotherapist, he even thought about commitment of suicide. Basing on own experience, Jung came to conclusion that successful life means balance, wholeness. If we make a lot of efforts in one direction, our unconsciousness would compensate for this inequality, for instance by horror dreams, insomnia, compulsive eating, obsessive thoughts, fatigue, low emotional state, etc. Symbolically, when Jung emerged from his period of midlife crisis, he made the most significant discovering contribution to psychology, including concept of collective subconsciousness, common to all human beings. Other famous psychoanalyst, Erik Erikson, wrote about midlife crisis midlife crisis is very important for finding opportunity to make adjustment in their lives that would lead to greater fulfillment. He also noted about big influence of this process transition on well-being of people. It can be especially painful for those people who realized that they waste a lot of time and made a lot of mistake, and that they don't have time anymore to make necessary changes. According to contemporary American Psychological Association, midlife crisis often shares similar traits with deep depression. However, we should remember that midlife crisis is the process of transition of identity that can happen with mid-age individuals from about 35 to 55 years old. James Hollis, one of leading contemporary psychoanalysts, claims that in the second half of life the question suddenly appears: who I am apart from roles I have to play? What does my soul ask for? Can I have the courage to shift my course and lose the collective approval? In order to understand the meaning of this process, we need to separate ourselves emotionally from society Hollis believes. We are not here to fit on, be well balanced, or provide example for others. We are here to be eccentric, different, perhaps strange, perhaps merely to add our small piece, our little clanky, to the great mosaic of being. As the God intended, we are here to become more and more ourselves, he said in the book What Matters Most, Living in More Considerate Life. The midlife crisis manifests itself on the surface of consciousness in many aspects: pressure to change job, career, addiction, divorce, loss of sense, etc. No one is immune to this transition process. Rich and middle-class people, women and men, well-educated and simple farmers. Radical change may touch everybody who haven't answered all important questions before and haven't satisfaction at midlife age. Midlife crises have a number of specific symptoms. The main sign is losing of sense of existence, related to belief in own low esteem and total injustice of life. Sensation of total injustice of life. People start asking themselves deep rhetoric questions about sense of efforts they have made to achieve some position at job, society. They begin to look at own family in a different way, finding mostly negative signs. They suddenly stop to feel satisfaction about almost all aspects of their life. Making any decision concerning job or family become difficult to them. They cannot concentrate on any essential issues of everyday life. Sometimes it seems to them that the only solution is to end up with everything and start again. They begin to think about the change of job, profession, partner of life. They often feel being used by others. They try to find reply self-critical thoughts, but they often feel powerlessness. Paul Gilbert, author of books about self-esteem, notes. One of signs of midlife crisis can be jealousy to other people and their successes. Achievement of other people seem to be unjust. People begin compare themselves to others and suffer from wrong using of own abilities and from lost opportunities for successes. Gaining or losing weight without any serious problems with health can be also symptom of midlife crisis, according to American Psychological Association. Lack of physical power and physical pain appear during any deep emotional crisis. Headache, gastrointestinal issues, muscle pain, and tension are frequent complaints of people experiencing of of midlife crisis. Many people begin to blame own marriage for unhappiness. They isolate themselves emotionally from other members of family and lose their interest to them. Sometimes they make impulsive decisions about divorce or separation. Problems with sleeping, long-term anxiety and panic attacks only reinforce this emotional conflict. One of typical signs of that kind of emotional crisis is dismal vision of the future. Dreams don't come true. Opportunities seems to be lost. Lifetime becomes short. People feel deep remorse for their goals that have not been accomplished. They don't understand how to live without any goals and dreams and see the future in a pessimistic way. Midlife crisis, fortunately, doesn't happen with everybody. According to Melanie Fennell, low self-esteem causes distress and disruption in a person's life and lead to feelings of incompetence. Research has shown that low esteem, in other words, lasting negative belief about themselves, may contribute towards a range of difficulties which stay invisible for a person for a long time. Root problems are related to childhood and adolescence. Our idea of ourselves may be a result of how we were treated by our parents or adults. If children were not be accepted by parents, they often assume that this reflects something bad within them. If they were systematically criticized or punished, this experience will leave many psychological scars. It's obviously that people who are self-important and have positive belief about themselves are more prepared for ups and downs in life. If there is any differences between women and men experiencing midlife crisis, yes and no. Women often overcome that crisis in a more balanced way. They apply to psychotherapists more often than men and try to understand themselves without any impulsive decision and radical change in their life. They also sometimes want to divorce, but after many attempts to retain emotional closeness into a relationship. With comparison to men, after divorce they don't try to find another person too quickly and learn to enjoy life and themselves. Men experiencing midlife crisis feel strong remorse about unfulfilled career goals and lack of financial success. Women feel more unsatisfied with own role in family, lack of respect from side of adult children, and lack of romantic in relationship with partner. Conclusions. Losing interest in life related to midlife crisis borders on self-sabotage. Dalai Lama said that we only have ourselves to blame. I would add that we only have ourselves to blame, forgive, accept and love. Midlife crisis can be an excellent opportunity for creating healthy self-esteem. If we are capable to answer to questions, who I am, what I really want to do, we always have a chance to change a life. Or we can change our expectations from others and from life, which often reflect our negative belief about the self. Shirley MacLaine, writer and spiritual teacher, describes frankly own process transition in the book Going Within. She said in the introduction that she was shifting from feeling of helplessness to position that recognize the power within. That doesn't mean that midlife crises lead us to cult of self-centering position in our relationships with others. The more happy we are individually, the more inspiration and motivation we have for better work and better understanding our surrounding. As Carl Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. It's obviously that confident people create a cycle of influence where they're thinking about what they can do and what they want to do. Begin with self and do it with acceptance and love. In my practice, I use a lot of methods and approaches, and of course, I try to come back together with my clients to their childhood, to their relationship with their parents, in order to understand what kind of expectations they have from parents and from our people in their adult life. Because sometimes we start relationships with somebody just in order to solve our deep emotional conflict hidden in our subconsciousness. But this is kind of conflict which we should solve just by oneself, without any toxic relationship. That's why during midlife crisis we can observe a lot of divorces and separation, a lot of lack of satisfaction which experience people. So together with my clients we try to create their true self, true identity, which they can create only when they stop to have a lot of frightened and obsessive thoughts about lack of acceptance from side of other people. I believe that we can change a lot of things when we stop to expect that other people can and will love us without because we try to do something for them. So I would like to repeat it. When we begin with ourselves and when we do it with acceptance and love, we can really create new relationships with our surrounding. Thanks for watching. I hope that my speech, my presentation was interesting and was useful for you, and I would like to answer your questions. Please write to me, please take a look at the web page which I provide, and yeah, I am open to all your questions and all your comments, and of course I understand that the time of midlife crisis is very right time, a very right topic, and sometimes it's very controversial topic because a lot of people believe that this is not that big psychological problem, but please, just watch it, just think, and I would like to reply all your questions and comments. Thank you. Thank you again.